is AD on the radio.
Today on the show, Kevin Spacey's Netflix show is being shut down after a story from his past has come back to haunt him. A politician regarded as an idiot has actually done something very remarkable for the world of higher education. And Funkhouser's bearded lady costume is kind of a hit at Halloween parties.
Yeah, I'm a disgruntled bearded lady because I had to get a regular job because the circus isn't hiring. So you see the fingernails? I'm beautiful.
Yeah, that's the hallmark of all good Halloween costumes, Funkhouser. A need for a lengthy explanation.
Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
Oh, there goes House of Cards. Kevin Spacey's Netflix show got canceled.
Oh, no, because he came out?
No, because he molested a 14-year-old boy. You didn't hear about this? That's why he came out.
No,
because the story about him molesting a 14-year-old boy. Oh, man. Can open, worms everywhere. I guess we'll discuss this a little later on in the show. But yeah, Kevin Spacey finally came out after being accused of forcing himself on a 14-year-old 30 years ago. We'll get to that later. Right now, though, wanted to tell you, well, you ever wondered about education? You ever wondered about higher education? You feel like you'd have a really good shot at doing something that you love, something that you cared about, something that you were passionate about. If you could only get that college degree, but a college degree, oh man, that's expensive. You hear over and over again about how much a college education costs and how it's this thing you're just going to be paying off for the rest of your professional life. And when you do the math, it just doesn't seem to be worth it. Well, that's not necessarily the case. And it is thanks to, and I'm not talking about going to your local community college and getting a degree that, you know, some people may respect, some people may not. No. Thanks to Rick Perry, you can get a really affordable college education. Yeah. Rick Perry, the often cited as being a dunderhead politician from Texas. And, well, we'll get to that later. I want to rewind and set a little scene for you first, having to do with education. So Tommy, and I'll leave out his last name because I have a feeling he might listen to this show. But Tommy and the other kids in the group that Miss McInerney had selected groaned, and they groaned audibly when my name was called to be part of their science project. And I could understand why. During the times where I'd had to get up in front of the class to read a book report or something like that, I was ill-prepared. My work was often incomplete. And when it came to having any kind of real charisma, which is something fifth graders are actually acutely aware of, well, I wasn't exactly dripping with the stuff. When I got up with my incomplete, ill-prepared book reports and attempted to get anywhere near the fabled B- that my parents said that I could get if I worked really hard, I didn't exactly hit a home run academically or in terms of my presentation. And I knew these other kids didn't want me as part of their group. It was the same groan that they groaned when I was picked to play on their basketball team in PE class. See, I was okay at some sports. I was actually pretty good at baseball. But for whatever reason, baseball was never part of a PE class. So they never seen me be good at anything. And when it came to basketball, my inability, to this day, I got to tell you, my inability to this day to even understand the concept of a layup made me a huge liability to our five-a-side team. Can never quite get the right foot, left foot, then you throw the ball, bounce it. No, I always get busted for traveling or whatever. It just, yeah. When we were playing horse later on in life, I was actually okay at making shots from far away because I was taller. But the moment you wanted to strike me out of the game at horse. You would just be like, oh, it's a layup. Can't do it. So these kids didn't have a ton of confidence in me, and with good reason. They'd never seen me win, which was something I hadn't done a lot of anyway at that stage in the game. In the 5th grade, I was, well, kind of an abject lower middle of the spectrum, sit at the back, hope you don't get called on. I mean, I grew up with dyslexia, I grew up with ADD and all sorts of things that weren't diagnosed at that point. And once I kind of figured that stuff out, things were a lot easier. But this was in the day of really just hanging around at the back of the class, hoping I didn't get asked any questions. Certainly no tough ones. So like I said, these kids had never seen me win. They didn't have any evidence of it. So when it came time to be made part of a 4-kid science project and presentation that would account for a large part of our quarterly grade, I understood exactly why they didn't want me on their team. A large part of me wouldn't have wanted me on my team. So I got it. Believe me, I got it. I know. I'm an anchor. I'll drag you down. I'm not good at this stuff. But there was one place in this scenario where I lucked out, and I was taught a very important lesson. You see, there was one part of this assignment that required something my father pointed out I could actually do.
Real radio.
104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So I've been made part of this group for a 5th grade science project. And like I said, there was an audible groan when my name was called and 3 other kids found out I was going to be working with them. This was a big part of our grade that year. This was something that needed to be done and needed to be done well. And these kids had seen me kind of fail in various areas of life, up to and including book reports. I would go to the front of the class, not have finished my assignments, be ill prepared, and fumble my way through something that would earn me, if Miss McInerney, our teacher at the time, was feeling generous, would earn me something in the C to C minus range. And that's when she was feeling generous. So anyways, these kids weren't overly stoked to have me as part of their team. And I got it. But this is where I lucked out. This is how I learned an important lesson from that. It's amazing. It's amazing when you think about it, how many of the experiences you go through before you're a teenager will make a lasting impression on you and give you things that you need for the rest of your adult life. But I lucked out because this was a science project and a lot of it required diagrams and drawings and things that were visual. And if there's one thing I was okay at, it was art. There are 2 things that sort of got me through my experience of having sort of ADD and dyslexia and things of that nature when I was younger. Things that made me kind of feel like I had something. I wasn't a complete failure and an ignoramus. I was stuck at the back of the class, told that people expected less than me, not required to finish homework assignments, just work on it for 45 minutes. And by the time that 45-minute buzzer rang, I'd probably gotten my name written on the top of the paper, and that was more or less it, because my mind would just wander into all these weird places, and I couldn't do anything about it, no matter how hard I tried to concentrate, couldn't do it. And I felt stupid and useless and less than, and like I had nothing going for me, until it kind of came to pass that I was okay at music and art. Like, I could play the drums. I could play the drums really well. I had an aptitude for it, and that gave me something I could hold on to, some sort of sense, some sort of value, some sort of worth. As did my ability to kind of draw. And when I told my dad about this assignment, my dad started to check in regularly about school after several parent-teacher conferences where they were telling him, a guy who excelled academically his entire life, a lawyer who played every sport and went to an Ivy League college, who just didn't understand the concept of having a hard time at school, that his son was underachieving by quite a lot. So he was checking in. And the more I think about it, the more I'm impressed with how understanding he was and how much he looked for things that I could be good at. He was understanding. I don't think he got it, but he was understanding of the fact that science and math and the like didn't come naturally to me. But when I told him about this science project, he was like, here's the thing. You could do some really great stuff with diagrams and maps and drawings and the visual part of this. You could make them really special, make them something that no one else in your class could make them. But you got to tell these kids that don't have the faith in you that you can bring something special to their project that other people can't. So I said to the guys in my group, I was like, look, I'm not so great at some of this stuff, but are you good at writing? Are you good at like math and science and stuff? That's cool. Why don't you handle that? And I'll bring this to the table. And I showed them my collection of drawings, and they were kind of blown away. I had them in my book reports. You know, there was an option of doing a drawing, and I think the way that I got my failing book reports up to a C was the fact that I would always include some rather impressive piece of art with them. And I showed them that. They're like, whoa, okay, yeah, you do that. You do that part. So I did that part. They told me what to do, and I did it. I stayed up so late the night before, finishing off absolutely everything. Massive visual presentation, and I knew that it had to wow the other kids in my group, and I knew it had to wow the other kids in my classroom, and I knew it had to wow the teacher. And so I wasn't able to pull that A by myself, but by being part of a team and having something that nobody knew about that I could bring to the team, I got an A. By playing to my strengths, I had success. And it made me realize that everybody has their something. And I think it made the kids in my class realize that everybody had their something. Hey, you need a good drawing? You go to him. He'll help you out. He'll hook you up. Look at his sketchbook, man. And I also noticed that 5th grade girls started coming over and asking to look at my sketchbook. And I was like, interesting. The plot thickens. Fascinating stuff. And I don't know why I relate this story so much to this one guy, but whenever people bring up Rick Perry and say this guy's an idiot, like there's fellow Republican politicians have said out loud on the air, on various forms of media, Rick Perry's an idiot. Couldn't name the branch of the government he wanted to do away with during a presidential debate. Drives around California in a Tesla. What the hell is this guy's problem? What the hell is he doing? Rick Perry's a dunderheaded idiot. Well, like I said, everybody's got their something.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radioland. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on.
So like I was saying, I had this 5th grade experience of having to work in a group of people that did not have a lot of faith in me academically. We had to do a science project. I was useless at things like book reports. I had every single understanding of why it was they wouldn't want to work with me. It was a big part of our grade for the quarter. And having seen me in action, having seen me just squeak by, having seen me be wildly uncharismatic in front of a group of people as I was trying to give that book report, I got why they wouldn't want me on their team. But my dad encouraged me. My dad said, hey, you got this ability to draw stuff. Your grandma had that ability. She was a professional artist. Clearly, you get it from her. Well, guess what? This report needs visual stuff. You can do it. And I actually, by playing to my strengths for the first time ever in that class, got an A. Helped people get an A. We all got an A, and it was amazing. It was amazing. And it taught me, and it taught the kids I was working with that, hey, everybody's got their something, and it's worth digging a little deeper. And it's funny, I always think of Rick Perry when I think of this happening to me. Because Rick Perry is one of those guys who on paper, publicly, has had many occasions, many big oops moments, like that time where he couldn't remember the branch of government he wanted to do away with during a presidential debate. I think his spin on it afterwards, he was like, I'm glad I wore my boots because boy, did I step in it there. There's plenty of reasons why you would look at that guy and go, dum-dum. How does he keep getting the faith of the people of Texas? Well, because, like I said, things aren't so simple. You could be hanging out in New York or Florida or California, look at him and go, what do people see in him? There was that time where he was caught driving around in a Tesla in Los Angeles, and people were like, what the hell is this dude's deal? Why would he? Well, his deal was this. He knew that Tesla was going to have to make batteries for their cars, and he was basically making an overture to Elon Musk saying, we are a place known for energy in Texas. Houston is the energy business capital of America, maybe the world. We have ports, we have less regulations, we have ample land, we have a lower cost of doing business. Put your battery manufacturing factory here in Texas, and we'll do you right. And it's that kind of, maybe there is something a little bit deeper going on with this guy than we knew. That always makes me give folks like Rick Perry and people like them a second look, because he's out there campaigning for the good of the people. Now, if you are like a lot of people I know when it comes to education, when it comes to learning, when it comes to feeling like, oh, man, if only I could have gotten that college education, which I can't afford because it's just going to mean paying back all kinds of student loans. Well, Rick Perry was there to help out, too. Funkhouser, if you wanted to go to like a good school, like a really good school, and you wanted to get a 4-year degree, what do you suppose it might cost you? Like, say you were going to go to Texas A&M.
Oh gosh, I have no reference. Let's just say $50,000.
It's not that far off. The average Texas A&M commerce student spends about $10,000 a year on college, which, by the way, is far below the national median, but far more than a lot of people want to pay back. And I don't know if you knew this, but when Rick Perry was governor, he actually did something about it. When Rick Perry was governor, he urged state universities to offer a $10,000 degree. $10,000, Funkhouser. I could understand you thinking you might not be able to come up with $50,000, but do you think if you spread it out over 4 years, you could come up with a $10,000?
Oh yeah, man, that's a car payment.
Yeah, $10,000, $10,000 degree, and Texas A&M Commerce accepted the challenge. Enrollment in the program was like 7 people back in January of 2014. Now it's 300. Texas Higher Education Commissioner Raymond Paredes said that if done right, a program like it will revolutionize public higher education, not just in Texas, but around the country. And it's one of those things that just gets glossed over because it's so important. It's so vitally important. And education is not just a degree that's going to help you get a job. An education is a sense of possibility. An education is enriching your mind. There is real, true joy in just the learning part of an education. And I know a lot of people tell you, well, I don't need an education. You can learn stuff on the internet, go to a trade school. And besides, college is so expensive. Yeah. And by the way, as somebody who missed out on college because I was like, I guess I can sort of finish high school, by mailing stuff in whilst I'm on the road with my band. F college. I really feel like I missed out on something. I can't imagine that I would be doing anything different than I'm doing now if I had gone to college. And that makes the idea of going back to college or going to college at all seem kind of, trite and silly. But I feel like I really missed out. I mean, if I were to go back, it wouldn't be as a kid. It wouldn't be that real life with training wheels scenario that was full of adventure and all of the above. But the idea of making learning and academia your vocation, oh my gosh, amazing. I do feel like I missed out on that. And I do feel like that's a vitally important part of people's lives. Education is a sense of possibility. Education is an idea that there's more out there than you know and understand. Education is a broadening of your mind and horizons and seeing the world in a different way. Education is so vitally important. And so many people feel X'd out of an education because it's way, way, way too expensive. You're going to spend your entire life paying that student loan back. And when you do the math, it just doesn't make any sense. Well, A&M's Commerce 10,000 degree program is self-paced. It's more realistic for older, more driven students. Students who finish the program earn a bachelor's degree. The average age of the student in the program is 39. And all but 3% enter with at least some kind of college experience. The idea was to help with needy students. And state leaders hope that the cheaper option would help current students save money while putting market pressure on traditional programs across the state. That's a very important part of it. Hey, we have a $10,000 degree. What do you have? Do you remember when Hyundai were making those crap cars? Like, they kind of accepted that they were crap, Funkhouser, but you could get them really cheap. And they said, it's going to break down, but guess what? We have a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Nobody else was offering any of that. It was like 3 years, 6 years, 6 years, but a 3-year for your powertrain or whatever. And then Hyundai all of a sudden went, you know what? Until we figure out the kinks, until we figure out how to make cars that don't die in the middle of the road, we're just going to offer you this incredible peace of mind opportunity to have America's best warranty. And what did that do? That put pressure on other car manufacturers to come up with better warranties themselves, to stand behind the quality of their work and do something better for the consumer. And that's a big part of the free market economy at work. Texas A&M offering a $10,000 college degree. It's a good school. It means something to have a degree from that school, and it puts pressure on traditional programs across the state and across the country. When you account for tuition and textbooks and living expenses, the average A&M Commerce student, and this is when you subtract out financial aid that they've got, the average A&M Commerce student spends around $10,000 a year on college, like I said. Far below the national median, but obviously way more than that sweet, sweet $10,000 degree. And so, not only am I telling you this because I want you to know that the possibility of an education is not as far out of reach as you might think it is, thanks to the free market economy and thanks to a guy who a lot of people dismissed as being a bit of an idiot. Now you understand. Now you understand why he meant something to the people of Texas. And now we have another great example of why things aren't always as simple as they seem and why it's worth scratching the surface and getting to the truth. All right, Funkhouser, we should probably get to the truth of what's going on with your favorite Netflix show. House of Cards is getting canceled because Kevin Spacey came out after being accused of trying to force himself on a 14-year-old 30 years ago. We'll get into that later on. Right now, though, what is going on with the news?
This is My Witness News. In no way, shape, or form fair and certainly not balanced. And now, super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhouser. Barry Funkhouser.
Oh, yes.
Barry Funkhouser.
One more time.
Barry Funkhouser.
Me.
How did you went out over the weekend and you attended various Halloween parties with...
Yeah, you want to know what I was?
Yeah.
I was the bearded lady.
Right. Funkhouser, do we want to tell them what it is you're doing?
Sure, man. Go for it. Tell the people.
Funkhouser is writing a screenplay, like all native Los Angeles, Los Angelians.
Like 10 out of 10 people you meet in Southern California.
Yeah, like 10 out of 10 people at Starbucks in Southern California. Funkhouser is writing a screenplay. I've read it, and I don't know. I don't have the power to green light a piece of something, but it was compelling to me. The only problem with your screenplay, Funkhouser, where I think some of it's lost on me, is like,
ooh, okay, let me write this down. Hold on. Mm-hmm.
Well, no, it doesn't. Like, I know all the people that you're basing these characters on, so I'm able to look at them and be like, oh, there's There's that guy who was our engineer for a little bit. There's that girl that you dated for a while. There's that, like, I know where all this stuff comes from. So, like, when I give you notes, which I've been doing, I've been giving Funkhouser notes on his screenplay.
Yes, thank you for that.
But, like,
you're
I
moving
name them
the
by
story
their,
along like a choo-choo train.
Yes, I name them by their real names.
Yeah, it's really off-putting.
Yeah,
you're giving me the story. It's like get out of my head, man.
But you realize that, people, if this thing gets made, and I don't see why not, but then I don't know anything about filmmaking. But all right, let's speak positively about it. When this thing gets made,
oh yeah, that sounds really assuring there.
When this thing gets made, the people that you're writing about are going to watch and be like, "What the hell, man? I kind of did that, but I didn't really do that. Hey, your screenplay makes me look like a jerk." You're going to get lots of those calls.
Yeah, but I'm also going to get a lot of the calls. It's like, wow, you really told that story perfectly.
Yeah,
and
yeah, really?
I hear that you write screenplays from, like, I'm taking this weekly little meeting class thing, and you're supposed to write screenplays from the beginning of, like, truth, and then you stretch it, you skew it, you make it something different. So you and I may know the real people, but they're really like a combination of like 4 or 5 people put into one person.
No. It's really interesting when you talk to the people, like when we had Spike Ferriston, who created, who wrote Seinfeld, on, and when you hear like the people that wrote Everybody Loves Raymond, like these situations that arise, like did that really happen to Jerry Seinfeld? Well, no, but it happened to a writer on his show who was also a comedian, so it was relatable. Or did that really happen to Ray Romano because it's based on his life? Well, a lot of it was based on the experiences of Jerry Seinfeld and Ray Romano, but also it was people in the room that were writing the sitcoms that had sort of like relatable experiences to them, and so it just winds up being an amalgamation of all these different characters and experiences, and
it's just easy to turn it into a thing, like real easy. Yep.
I'm very glad to see that I haven't made it into your screenplay, and I expect to stay the hell out of it.
Oh no, I've been starting to write you in there.
No, you haven't.
Oh, you'll see.
You're going to be hearing from my lawyer. As soon as I
I'll give you one. You're going to be hearing 1 point in the movie.
You're going to be hearing from my legal Zoom accounts. So anyway, Funkhouser went as the bearded lady for Halloween because you've decided you're not going to shave until.
No, I have a writer's beard. Yes, a writer's beard.
Yeah, you're not going to shave until you've completed your screenplay.
Yeah, it's motivation to finish it.
How long has it been?
Oh, I don't know, like a month or 2.
You grow a very impressive beard, like really, really.
I've never done it before.
It's bristling. It's and I got to tell you, yes, it's bristling. And I got to tell you, the pictures you sent me of you going to Halloween parties as the bearded lady, creepy, really creepy.
The disgruntled bearded lady, because the circus is no longer hiring, so the bearded lady had to get a regular job. Hence the regular outfit, like the office attire. So it's more of a disgruntled bearded lady.
There's a lot of layers to that. Did people pick up on it? Like, oh, wait a second, you're a bearded lady, but you're dressed in normal attire as opposed to bearded lady attire. You seem disgruntled. Are you a bearded lady that got put out of work when the circus got shut down?
No, I had to tell the story, but they got it after I told them the backstory.
Right. Nothing makes a Halloween costume sing other than having to tell the backstory. It was a good costume, Funkhouser. I take my hat off to you.
Thank you. Yes. How do I get this nail polish off?
That's a you problem, not a me problem.
Radio. 104.1.
Now, more AD on the radio.
All right, so we'll talk about what happened with Kevin Spacey, about why House of Cards is done. His Netflix show is done after this season. He came out, but he came out as part of being accused of molesting a 14-year-old boy, and we'll get into the whys and wherefores a little later on.
Dude, so many people lost their job over it. That's the saddest part.
That kind of is. But I mean, it's just, look, you've dipped a toe into the world of television and media and things like that. You know that being one of the creators or one of the staff of a show like House of Cards, that's not a forever job. That's something that you do for a while, and I think it ran for longer than a lot of people expected. So what are you going to do? It is definitely getting the rug pulled out from underneath you, though. Like Kevin Spacey's past bites you in the ass, and all of a sudden hundreds of people are out of work. It's an interesting thing. I think Sting said he battled with the idea of breaking up the police when he was going to quit the police, because he's like, we became this kind of industry, like this, all these different people, their jobs depended on us cranking out like another set of hit songs, and you become aware of that, how many other people's lives are wrapped up in what it is you do, and it's not something you plan for, it's not something you expect, but it's a weird reality of the entertainment business. If you're successful, there's a lot of people depending on you for their lunch ticket. Sometimes literally their lunch ticket. When you work on film stuff, Funkhouser, isn't it a big deal when they provide a third meal? Like, oh, we're going into overtime, everybody gets a third meal.
Yeah, sometimes I only work for food. It's good, too. It's really good. Last time we had Zanku chicken. You know the story behind Zanku chicken?
I do not know the Zanku chicken story, but I have a feeling I'm about to hear it. Go on.
Man, well, it's kind of dark, but I hear there's a documentary out that's been pulled from the internet where it was a family-run company, and the sons in the family, the men in the family, wanted to make it a franchise, and the women in the family did not. And long story short, the women in the family were murdered.
What?
And Zanku Chicken is now a franchise. And somebody wrote a documentary. And
you know what? Tomorrow is Halloween.
Ooh.
Let's make this our Halloween show. Let's make the story of the Zanku chicken.
That's kind of all I know about it, though. We need a lot of help.
I
with
can
the
do some research. I'm already freaking fascinated.
Really, but you've heard of the chicken?
I've heard of Zanku chicken, but I did not know that there was murderous.
Yeah, and then I told one of the
behind
clerks there when I ordered there for the first time, and some random guy in line.
Wait, hold on. You brought it up to the guy serving you the chicken?
Yeah.
Hey, isn't this franchise because, half the family murdered the other half the family?
No, I said, is the documentary true? Because I can't find it online. Somebody made a documentary about the murder, and the 16-year-old clerk didn't know anything about it, but the guy behind me in line said, oh, yeah, that's true. So yeah, it's a
it must be delicious chicken.
It's so good.
If that guy could say, "Oh, it's true," I'm going to go give my money to some murderers because the chicken's that good. The chicken must be really something.
Well, you can't.
If that is true, I'm not giving them a penny of my money.
But you can't.
Look at you hanging out with sleazy Hollywood types. Just because the chicken's delicious, you're willing to spend money on it, even though you're supporting a murderer.
Yeah, but it's the franchisee. They have nothing to do with it. You got to support local business.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's
whatever gets you through the day. Sure. Yeah.
It's so good, though.
It better be, because you're basically eating your own soul, Funkhouser. When you eat Zanku chicken, you're taking a bite out of your own soul.
Ooh, that should be their new slogan.
Yeah,
should make a commercial for that.
All right. Well, we might be completely way off. There could be no truth to this. We'll get into it tomorrow on Halloween.
We'll
the
see.
Story of the murderous franchise chicken. What's going on in the world, Funkhouser?
Sad news about Simon Cowell. He was hospitalized after he fell down the stairs at his home.
It could have been worse, but I believe the impact was broken by the stick-up of his butt. Simon Cowell, I wonder if he was drunk. How do you fall down stairs? It seems... I don't know. Who knows? He's got a kid now. He could have slipped on a children's toy. And I've almost eaten it on the stairs thanks to, Millhouse's ball that he leaves there. He knows that, this when I'm coming home, he wants to immediately pick up this ball and have me throw it to him. And so for that reason...
Yeah.
Way to remember to mute your phone during the show, Funkhouser.
Airplane mode.
But yeah, no, I've almost eaten it on a dog toy on the stairs, so maybe that's what happened to Simon Cowell.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Tripped. Yeah.
I'm sure he didn't slip on someone's underwear. All right, so Stranger Things 2 is out on Netflix. Have you started watching it yet?
No, I haven't. Everybody's giving it 2 thumbs up except for George H.W. Bush, since he had one hand on a woman's butt, as apparently is his wont. Apparently, he tells the same joke every single time he does this. Like, he was like, you know who my favorite musician is? Who? David Copperfield. And then he, like, honks their butt.
He does not.
And that's
a presidential joke? Is that what you're saying?
That's a presidential joke. Now, here's the thing. Like, wanting to play devil's advocate. He's in a wheelchair, which means, like, him trying to put his arm around someone is a difficult thing. He's old, he's infirm, he's in a wheelchair, and trying to lift that arm up to a place where you're not resting your hand on someone's butt is a difficult thing for him to do. Now, a lot of the people that have been coming forward with the stories about him doing it say, oh, he's a dirty old man with the way he did it. I felt him grab and then some squeezing. His representatives have said it's difficult for him to do this. It's difficult for him to put his arm around someone and not have it land on their butt because of his physical limitations. And he tells the David Copperfield joke to kind of make light of the fact that he basically can't lift his arm over a certain level. So some people are saying it's coincidental and he's trying to mitigate his own physical problems by telling a joke like, hey, my hand happened to land on your butt. I'm David Copperfield. Har, har, har. When he's not actually doing it on purpose. And then there's people saying, no, he's definitely a serial ass grabber and has been for many years. Like the one woman who said that, the first woman who said that he did it, said that when he did it, she looked at Barbara Bush and Barbara Bush was like, not again. Like, eye roll, like, oh, this again. But maybe she was just, eye rolling over the horrible David Copperfield joke he was starting to tell. It's interesting.
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KPRC, more stimulating talk radio.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The dumbing up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
All right, Funkhouser, we'll talk about Kevin Spacey and why his coming out has resulted in, what's the show? I still haven't
House
watched
of
it.
Cards?
House of Cards. Now I can't watch it. I'm annoyed about this.
Oh,
because,
no, you should still watch it.
So, like, House of Cards was adapted from an English version, and I got to tell you, I remember watching the English version when I was a kid and being terrified of the character that Kevin Spacey was recreating. Like, watch the original English version. It's incredible. And I watched it again. When House of Cards blew up on Netflix in America, I watched the original English version again. And I was like, you know what? I like to binge things all at once, so I'm just going to, like, wait until this show runs its course and gets canceled. But now it's like, man, I love Cosby Show. Loved Cosby Show growing up. Look, there's so many incredible life lessons that I learned from Cosby Show, like Theo's dyslexia, him beating it and getting through college and becoming, the educator that he became. Like, there was tremendous inspiration as a kid for dyslexia growing up and seeing these tough situations dealt with in a human way. Like, I got so much out of Cosby. Absolutely, 100 million %. And then to find out that Bill Cosby was this unbelievable creep, I was just like, I was really looking forward to watching these shows with kids if I ever had kids of my own. And now I can't. And can't enjoy it, can't get into it in good conscience. I could never watch this with a child. And same with House of Cards now, I think. We'll discuss the full story and talk about whether or not we can watch it.
Yeah, I knew about him going in when I started watching, and I think it kind of made it better.
You knew about him being a child molester? No, you didn't.
I just knew about him being...
the entire world knew he was a closeted homosexual. Like, that was like anytime anyone came out, everyone would just look at him and be like, anything you'd like to add, Kevin Spacey? Like, it was the worst kept secret ever. But of course, it doesn't matter that he's gay. That matters not at all. The molesty part, well, that's the part that's kind of put me off watching.
Yeah.
I mean,
damn it.
Gosh,
it was so good.
See, so now I can't watch it, and I probably can't watch it. We'll talk about it later, and I'll try and come to some sort of conclusion about whether it's okay for you to watch House of Cards, knowing what we know about Kevin Spacey. You know what else I don't like about Kevin Spacey?
What?
And up until now, there hadn't been anything that I didn't like about Kevin Spacey. Like, I have a problem with him now that I know he molested a child, obviously, as the entire world should. But the thing that I didn't like about Kevin Spacey is he does an impersonation. He does an impersonation of, oh my God. What's the impersonation I always try and do, Funkhouser? I'm having a Rick Perry moment on the podium. What's the branch of government I won't do away with? I'm stepping in it. I've got... help me out. Oh, no, Dad. We're all out of soy. What the,
yeah. What's his name?
Who? What's his name? Oh, my God.
That's Colonel Angus there. What's his name?
No, wrong.
No,
Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Christopher Walken.
There you go.
Oh, my gosh.
Whoa.
So, yeah. I've always felt like I do an okay... Well, I feel like I do an okay Christopher Walken impersonation. Funkhouser thinks it's okay. He's like, you need to work on that.
Yeah.
But, like, the world kissed Kevin Spacey's ass for the longest time about his Christopher Walken impersonation. And I don't think it's that much better than mine. It's
Yeah, I'd agree
Smell
with
my
you.
feet. Give me something good to eat. If you don't, oh, no, I don't care. I'll pull down your underwear. Like, it's not that good. That's Kevin Spacey's. Mine is, what if Milhouse, my dog, was Kevin Spacey? Oh, no, Dad. It appears we're all out of kibble. It's terrible news. Should we go for a walk? It's exciting. Go outside. Get some more kibble. See? That's just as good as Kevin Spacey's. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it's equally as unimpressive as Kevin Spacey's, and the entire world kisses his butt for it. And you know what? I'm over it. Very few things I take pride in this world, and very few things I've actually tried at. My Kevin Spacey, my Christopher Walken impersonation is one of the few things that I've actually tried at. I'm still not very good at it, but neither is Spacey. All right, more
so
news.
are they just canceling House of Cards? Or
I don't know. I don't know. We'll find out.
Okay. Well, the New York Giants had a bye week.
Yep,
The
city's
football.
throwing them a parade. Yeah, the city's throwing them a parade for not losing. Go on.
I can't believe there's football and baseball at the same time. I'm paying attention to sports this year.
And basketball.
What?
Like it all. There's this one weird week in October, November.
Is that this week right now?
We're in it. We're in World Series week.
3 sports at once. Weird.
All of them.
The Cleveland Browns lost the Minnesota Vikings yesterday in London and are now 0-8.
Yeah. 0-8.
0-8.
And they did that thing where they went across and played a game that's a real game, but it's an exhibition game, sort of, in London to try and get people in England into American football, as they call it over there. They lost. 0-8. Even worse news for Browns fans, the team did not book a one-way flight. They should just stay over there, change their name to the London Silly Nannies, and give up.
They get a week off. They play like a game, and then they get another week off.
Yeah, I mean that's a difference between football and baseball. Like with baseball, like you could drop a whole bunch of games and still go on to win a World Series. But football, man, there's so much. Baseball is like Seinfeld. Whenever you want to watch a baseball game during baseball season, there's pretty much one on. But it's a very sort of like much more of a few and far between thing with professional football. And that's why every sort of game counts that much more.
Well, another tropical storm has formed near the Florida Keys there. And
Yeah. President Trump's already trying to get ahead of this one. Seen him out back on the White House lawn warming up his paper towel throwing arm. He'll be ready.
A woman gave President Trump the middle finger after following his motorcade on a bicycle.
There are countries where that woman would have her finger chopped off. It's part of the benefits of free speech. You can you can do ridiculous stuff like that. Chased him down on a bicycle and gave him the finger. It's ridiculous, of course. But, at least Funkhouser, at least it's good to see Hillary Clinton getting some exercise.
I knew it was coming. I saw that one. Back up the truck. We know where this one's parking. You knew where it was going, but it still slid right in, just perfectly there.
It's exactly how you wanted it. Yeah.
President Trump will release nearly all classified documents on the JFK assassination.
Are you excited about this, Funkhouser?
I wonder what we find out.
There's like 3,000 pages to read. Like, people have spent, there's no way, people are talking about it like they've read it. They haven't read 3,000 pages.
Somebody will figure something out, and then I'll read that.
No, they won't. I guarantee you this won't change. If this affects your day, tinfoil is on sale at Target, and you're going to want to make yourself a new hat. Because
really, what could we not know?
I guarantee you there's nothing new. There's no new information in this. Otherwise, we would know it was coming. We would know there was some sort of incredible truth bomb involved in releasing these documents. This is going to wind up being a completely pointless exercise that brings us nothing new. I would love to be proven wrong. As a skeptic, I would love to be proven wrong. But I'll bet you $1 on this one, Funkhouser. I'll bet you shaving that beard into a Fu Manchu mustache.
Can't do it.
Go on.
3 women, we talked about this earlier, 3 women accused George H.W. Bush of groping them from his wheelchair.
George W. was stunned, dumbfounded, and speechless. And then he heard about his dad. See, again, you knew exactly where it was going.
Right next to the other one. Come on, back it up. There's still a couple more spots here.
You know how relevant George W. Bush was to me and my thinking, Funkhouser? He actually played a pivotal part in my sort of political thought. How long do we have? We're going to have
4.
A chance to talk about 4? All right. Well, no, George W. Bush, when you are raised by unbelievably democratic hippie parents the way I was, well, you rebel. You rebel against your upbringing. It's just sort of something that we all do. And a great way for me to rebel against my parents, the East Coast Democrat types, was to call myself a Republican and move to Texas, which I did. And look, I mean, if you are new to this show, you need to know something. I'm on the side of truth and common sense. And I refuse to declare any kind of allegiance to any kind of political party, because I think the only benefit of the party system is to the politicians who want to remove critical thinking and just want to make voting a knee-jerk reaction. It was this, so I'm going to be that. No. Look a little deeper. And so for that reason, I guess the evolution of my political thought, the point where I stopped being a Republican, was when I was living in Houston, Texas, and saw the complete sort of the complete mess that was made of Hurricane Katrina. Like a lot of people in Houston, I felt like it fell to the people of Houston as opposed to the government to help our neighbors in Louisiana. And I was like, you know what? Until this guy is out of office, I can no longer call myself a Republican. I am now, thanks to George W. Bush, a conservative independent, because I can't be aligned with someone who allowed this to happen on his watch. And it was an interesting one. Like I said, he played an important part in the evolution of my personal politics. All right, Funkhouse. By the way, George W. Bush.
Yeah. Everybody
that I know who's met him in Houston say a nicer, kinder, more erudite, well-spoken individual you could not hope to meet. And one of those folks that is, you put him in front of a microphone, he goes all mealy-mouthed, but like as a person, you absolutely, if you meet him in person, understand why people voted for him. Anyways, Anthony Rapp from the new series Star Trek Discovery says that Kevin Spacey tried to have sex with him back in 1986 when he was 14. Spacey would have been 26 at the time. They were both doing Broadway, and Spacey invited Rapp to his apartment for a party. After everyone else left, he picked up Rapp like a groom picks up a bride over the threshold, quote unquote, put him on his bed, and climbed on top of him. Rapp managed to squirm away, run into the bathroom, and shut the door. When he finally came out, he told Spacey he had to go. Kevin followed him all the way to the door, asking him if he was sure. He said yes, and he did. It's 30 years ago. Rapp is now 46. And he said, quote, "The older I get, the more I can't believe it. I could never imagine that anyone else I know would do something like that to a 14-year-old boy." As for why he's coming forward now, it's got a lot to do with the current climate. He says, quote, "I'm feeling really awake to the moment that we're living in, and I'm hopeful that this can make a difference." After he told his story, Kevin issued a statement saying he doesn't remember this happening, but he also didn't deny it. He said, quote, "I honestly do not remember the encounter. It would have been over 30 years ago. But if I did behave, then, as he describes, I owe him the sincerest apology for what would have been a deeply inappropriate drunken behavior." And then Kevin did something else. He came out. He said, "As those closest to me know, in my life, I've had relationships with both men and women. I have loved and had romantic encounters with men throughout my life, and I choose now to live as a gay man. I want to deal with this honestly and openly, and that starts with examining my own behavior." Yeah, well, it's great that he finally came out and everything, but 30 years and some booze doesn't mitigate the circumstances of what he's done.